And please remember that, as always, this month has been declared the Pink Month, the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you always see our daily messages on breast cancer and the tips. And we just told you that once you get early detection, it means that we can save your breast. No, it doesn't mean that your whole breast will be removed, as far as the mastectomy is concerned. But let's look at what the stories are as we do a review of the newspapers, or perhaps do highlights of the various newspapers and the publications that are on those front and back pages, and also look at what stories there are on the various online portals. Of course, we have to look at myjoyonline.com, and you can go to myjoyonline.com. We have a couple of stories there. It says outgoing CID boss cries foul, blames Kandapa for his removal, etc. And there are a lot of highlights on a number of things also. But I already said for the cyber security week as well. So we know that it's slated for 23rd to the 27th of October 2017. So you go to myjoyonline.com, you have a lot more of those highlights there. But we have other stories there. We have other stories on new social intervention drive tackling child poverty from the womb. Good one. We've already talked about how the outgoing CID boss seems to think that it's Kenny Japong and Kandapa who may have instigated his removal from office, so to speak. We're told, according to the report, he was not due for terminal leave until the early part of 2018, but seemed to have taken terminal leave very early. So that leads to retirement ultimately. We also have daily light therapy may help people with bipolar disorder, and study has found an eye in front of light box or lighting box helping easing depressive symptoms for those afflicted with bipolar disorders. And we know that this is a new subject, not only of talk on the various online portals, but also on social media and mainstream media as well. All hail the consistent critic. The essence of democracy, we're told, I'm sure there's an opinion has brought about the freedom of expression, and Professor Stephen Adair, we're told, is one man who has consistently been critical of officialdom. It doesn't matter which government or political party is in power. That's kudos to him too. Lands Commission goes digital to stem delays in corruption, and it's part of government digital Ghana agenda. And the Lands Commission also hinted it is near the completion of a digital system that promises to cut delays in corruption. We hope that will be so, as promised. NDC ditches technology, goes for manual registration for a transition into technology, we're told. We'll discuss that on AM Talk. I'll be having in the studio Emmanuel Chemantinge-Jaku. Emmanuel Chemantinge-Jaku is a member of parliament for Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, and he'll be in the studio alongside George Lowe. So we'll have all those discussions this morning. But other stories also on the page, myjoyonline.com. You can also find CID boss relieved opposition. That's now official, we're told. His assistant or deputy is taking his place. Let's scroll up and see whether we can find some interesting stories. The story of Kandapa being allegedly the man alongside Kenny Japong instigating the removal of the CID boss. You have other videos there, and the videos are all on the channel on YouTube, My Joy Online TV. So when you get onto YouTube, please look for that channel, My Joy Online TV. You get to find a lot of those videos. So we have all the stories just elaborated further. But let's look at City FM Online. And on City FM Online, it's free SHS, Kwabena, etc. All the stories. But it's about LPG as marketers to shut down maintenance works. We know that is going to be today. So we'll be having a focus on that. We want to speak to our correspondent across the regions of our country to see whether the threats by operators of LPG stations really have been carried out, and whether that's going to have untold hardships on consumers, so to speak, who tend to buy their products. And then we have, bear with us, you will be posted soon. Government will unemploy doctors, and they didn't mince words yesterday on the mainstream media yesterday, especially on Ecosystem, on Asempa FM with Kaba and his producer, Dominic Kasiabwa. It was not. The doctors really had a go at government and the Ministry of Health. Minority to boycott today's discussion on withdrawal of a Mary deal. And then we have ACP Adodankwa, new CID boss, bride to draw out. But we have the story. Magdan CEO to rescue La Presby students studying on cement blocks. And we know that the criticism has been that, well, because they've had increased numbers in the school because of free SHS, etc., it's ultimately also led to not having enough facilities for them. And the question that was focused by CTFM was on that even if we had a school in urban Accra having these difficulties, what about rural or schools that were in remote areas or far from the main urban communities? Group petition tried to probe Bust MD, and we have other stories there on CTFM. The Bank of Ghana sanitizes microfinance sector by naming and shaming. According to the report, there are a number of them that, in sports, Leicester City, they've sacked their manager, Alan Shakespeare, we're told. But let's go to the Africa page of the BBC, and apparently a commissioner of the Kenyan Electoral Commission has quit. Dr. Roslyn Akombe found herself through Emirates Airlines through Dubai to New York and decided to speak to the BBC about how she feared for her safety in Kenya and how she thinks any hands for any election that will be conducted in Kenya may not be transparent, free and fair. So we have Africa highlights there. Pro-Biafra leader in court, no show. Zimbabwe bans fruit imports. And also the move to prosecute Zuma's son over death. And lobby groups want to prosecute Duduzani Zuma on manslaughter charges emanating from a car crash. We'll see how that goes with the son of the president. And Cairo, most dangerous city for women. Really? Okay. And then we have Kenya toddler shots amid protests. So those are the stories basically we have. But we already know that Liberia and their election are headed for a runoff, so to speak. Yeah, so those are the stories pretty much we'll have on the BBC. But let's look at the newspapers now. So on the front pages of the newspapers, we start with the Daily Graphic. The Daily Graphic has a front page story. 3 Ghanaians nabbed over $5 million romance fraud. And you have a picture there of Dan Intwi. And Dan Intwi is a deputy executive director of Yoko in charge of operations. But that's how the story reads. It says 3 Ghanaians have been arrested for allegedly defrauding 16 British nationals to the tune of some £5 million, and they are victims. And one of the victims, a 71-year-old woman, is said to have died after she had been defrauded by the syndicate that uses romance and trade as its modus operandi. Locally, it's known to many of us as Sakawa. Well, the British victims didn't know that. They hadn't been in Ghana. They don't know that Sakawa was a big thing. They called them Game Boys in town. And those picked up in Ghana are Moro Issa, a businessman. He says he's a businessman. And Sabai Najere, who is a businesswoman as well. And a third accomplice, apparently, who lives in the UK or, commutes between Ghana and the UK. You know how they do it. Opukwa Jimain was arrested in the United Kingdom. And briefing the media yesterday, Deputy Executive Director of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, Dan Intwi, said the 3 were arrested after a year's investigations in a special operation codenamed Operation Grateful. And they did that with the UK's National Crime Agency, the NCA. The investigation focused on large-scale romance scam or fraud and trade-based money laundering, TBML. We call it the TBML. That's the intelligence and the police community are calling of both Ghana and Britain. We call it Sakawa game. Romance scam is a form of scam in which which deprives victims of their money while leaving them emotionally bruised and traumatized. That's a good way of putting at it. Sakawa. That's what happened. Sakawa, £5 million. We have other stories there as well. You have up there, Finance Ministry acquires software to check unrealistic budgets. Good. And then we have Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, signed cooperation agreement. You have the president of Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, and the president of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Very good. On the back page of the daily graphic, we have Ghana Gas here to compensate for Etiabo land, litigation over rightful owners to blame. And the Ghana National Gas Company, Ghana Gas, is here to compensate landowners and farmers in its operational areas due to litigation over who are the rightful owners of those lands. And as a result, we've had these delays, even though these are the complaints. But the reality is that that's the truth. You have a picture there also of Nana Voblay the Fifth, who is the chief of Anoche, posing a question at the public forum. He says, we haven't been paid. Why haven't we been paid? They said, Charlie, you guys are fighting over ownership. Scarborough Crew into Orkon. So let's look at the Ghanaian Times. Ghanaian Times also has a picture of President Alassane Ouattara of La Côte d'Ivoire and the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire signed ITLOS Pact to implement ruling of the International Tribunal. Very good. I'm sure if we had lost, we would have gone to the same process. 3 arrested in £5 million. You go up. Let's scroll up. So we scroll up. 5 arrested in £5 million fraud case in Ghana and the UK. Government asks critics to name corrupt officials. And that story is on page 4 of the Ghanaian Times. Let me just give you a gist of what the story says. It says, government has asked anti-corruption crusaders and senior citizens to be specific with their allegations instead of making general statements. Don't generalize. Just say this man is corrupt, this one is... and then, for example, interacting with the media yesterday, the information minister described recent allegations by a former moderator of the Presby Church, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Mate, as nebulous. I don't know how, yes, sir. Professor Mate, according to information minister. The outspoken former moderator is reported to have said at a lecture last week that government official has started showing signs of corruption and further urged Akufo-Addo to immediately stop them. But reacting to the issue which has dominated the media, the information minister, Mustafa Abdul Hamid, said, in as much as criticisms are welcomed, it expects them to be based on actualities and not perceptions. Yo. Yate. Trader jailed 10 years for robbery. And then apparently there's a court that has asked a man who is a 39-year-old man to stay away from his ex-wife, be harassing the lady. So this it says Prince Yao Asumeni, a trader, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison, hard labor by an Accra Circuit Court for robbery. But an Accra Circuit Court in the same vein has also granted 40,000 Ghana cedis bail with 2 sureties to Andrews Asare-Quartey, the human resource manager of Movies Ghana Limited, for threatening to kill his ex-wife. The court ordered the accused to stay 100 meters away from the resident of Hagar Hilda Mpedu 40, who is the deputy director of World Health Organization Ghana. We are big people, big mind and big woman. Threatening each other, threatening messages. Now the court says that you, Mr. Andrews Asare-Quartey, don't go near 100 meters of where the woman lives. And the woman is your ex-wife. And the ex-wife's name has been put here, Hilda Mpedu, a 40-year-old POSO, Deputy Director, World Health Organization. Don't go near. All to men and women, we should divorce. Please don't go near. Don't try. Court will assert itself. Now let's go to the back page of the paper. At the back page of the Ghanaian Times has a story. Only 90% of Ghanaians have access to improved sanitation. I think I know a lot more about that. Yesterday, we had a whole day on UNICEF and its concerns about the Sustainable Development Goals and how the World Day on Poverty Reduction was also captured on an AM show, rightly. We were based in Ashaiman. And so it says 2017 World Population Report launched. In Ghana, we're advised that you keep the population between 2 to 3. So those who haven't given birth yet, those of us who have 4 or 5 children, we are already in trouble according to the World Population Report. But don't worry, we have already given birth to 4 children already, so we'll manage it like that. Now let's go to the Finder. The Finder says ITLOS deal sealed as Ghana Ivory Coast set up joint committee to implement the ruling. And it's on the front page of the Finder newspaper. Other stories we have: GJ opens entries for 22nd awards competition. You have a picture there of my good friend, my former boss, Boss Ram, Roland Alpha Money, the president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Yeah. Ghana Water Company Limited apparently launches paperless system. I've been getting some bills on my phone the last couple of months. I didn't know that was part of the whole, I thought it was just one of those things to do it. Okay. And ECG disconnects Bishop Herman College. That's my old school. 56,000 Ghana cedis were in debt. Hey, is it Ghana, government of Ghana debt or the college? So this one all students have to pay, or I don't know. I'll consult my Bishop Herman Old Boys Union to see. We have Ghana's occupational safety regime in danger. That's on page 4 of the paper. And then we have other stories there. But let's quickly look at the Daily Dispatch newspaper. It has on the front page, MPP government dares Reverend Professor Mate name the corrupt officials. See back page. Sorry, the see back page is not part of the headline. It's just reference. Sorry, the English was going too fast. MPP government dares is on the back page. MPP government dares Reverend Professor Mate name the corrupt officials. Don't just be making spurious allegations according to the information minister. Please name them. Name them. Name them. Name them. And we know that Professor Mate had been saying that it looks like corruption was creeping into the administration of the Kufuor government. That was not taken so well. Information minister has come to assert himself. If you can't name them, don't be speculative. Speculation is not encouraged. It is not good. Anokumi is dead. It's a headline story. Details from National Employment Report. Ghana and our problems. We look at the Publisher newspaper. The Publisher newspaper says UCC says girl begs I had relapse. You have a picture there of one Abena Koko Ado. Beautiful. I wanted to read a story, but we don't have time, so we'll go forward. Let's look at Business and Financial Times. Business and Financial Times. That's the last paper we're looking at. Then we'll go for sports. It says government tax to lead fight against e-payment fraud. I don't know whether that one too can be described as Sakawa. But the story is on page 3 of the paper. It says, as the country makes strides in deepening electronic transactions, so have criminals become more sophisticated at outwitting e-payment systems in order to steal. We want technology. So once we want technology, we should have the systems in place. That will make sure that we do it right. I agree. And they bring out, the front page also bring us, that's a business, an infographics on private universities affiliation levies. Total student population 79,000, and the affiliation levies passed on to students to pay per semester are now $1 million. That's 4 million Ghana cedis approximately. It could be more. And the accreditation fee payment to that's the national accreditation will increase from 2,000 to 6,000. Yeah, we have a lot more universities now. I say it's good we have an educated population than we don't. So it says the university affiliation system to be scrapped. The Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Professor Christine, has revealed that the current system of mentoring and affiliation, wherein a private university college understudies a private until the private university college becomes mature, will soon be abolished. Indeed, sweeping reforms in tertiary education are underway and waiting to be announced, he said recently. And the story is on page. That will be interesting. We can have this for a great discussion. Really? Is that so? Government is in search of viable alternatives to the current system of mentoring and affiliation that will soon be abolished. We should be able to simplify the bureaucracy in setting up a university, which should raise rather than lower standards in university education. I agree with you on this one. Professor Kwesi Yanka is the Deputy Minister of Education, I'm sure in charge of tertiary education. A very good one. But that'll be it for the sports stories we have this morning. Just in case you want to get interactive, very easy for you to do so. On Facebook, we have our page. We stream there live, fortunately. Joy News on TV is the name of the page. We have a Twitter handle, also our Joy News on TV. And then we have our platforms always on YouTube, where we have a channel. It's also live. Please go watch us. And my Joy Online TV is a channel on YouTube. Right now, we have to take a break. Benedict Owusu is ready with the latest sports stories. We know that we're going to have in the studio after that the latest business stories, as we have great packages for Sheila Tamaklo and the rest of the team. And then we're going to have in the studio Emmanuel Tremantinge Jakun, who is a member of parliament for the Ewasu West Wuogon constituency, and then George Lowe, who is a member of the NDC, but also a former member of parliament for North Dine, and a legal practitioner. Will be discussing the NDC. There are now attempts to have a re-registration from the current biometric system they have. We're going to have great stories to discuss. How implementation of laws, etc., will be done by Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire. We have a new paperless system, and the government asking critics to name corrupt officials instead of just so-called anti-corruption people, just talking in parlance by heart, so to speak. So we have all those discussions. Please do stay on. We will be right back.